Hello everybody, my name is Milenkovic, and I will be presenting a brief overview of warnings and how to correctly create them and implement them. First off, what is a warning? On its most basic level, a warning is the act of informing the user or bringing something to their attention. This can be achieved through images, explanations, or a combination of the two. So then, why are warnings necessary? First and foremost, warnings are necessary for safety. Nothing is perfect and accidents tend to happen. Warnings inform the user of these possibilities. Warnings are also necessary because of carelessness. Sometimes the user will not read a manual correctly or thoroughly enough. If this is the case, then warnings should grab the user's attention to point out any possible dangers. Finally, warnings are necessary because not everything is obvious to everyone. Someone older might instantly recognize the danger of having paper near an open flame, while someone of a younger age might not perceive any danger. Before defining what makes a good warning, let's take a look at some older warning signs and why they were ineffective. On the left-hand side is an example of a tractor warning from the 1930s. This is more of a list on how to maintain the vehicle with a small caution sign at the end. This image does not provide an eye-catching warning or an explanation. The warning is also presented at the end. On the right-hand side, there is a cartoon explaining some of the accidents that can happen in different situations using the tractor. This warning is definitely an improvement as it shows images, however, it still gives lengthy explanations as well as does nothing that catches the eye. In the 1970s, icons started appearing with warnings, the first being the green cross. This icon now provided a way to catch the reader's eye. However, the image itself still provided no indication of what the warning was about. However, this would still lay the foundation for modern-day warnings. Modern warnings all share similar characteristics. Most warnings have icons with them to catch the reader's eye. This is usually accomplished through bright colors. This icon is also usually an image that indicates to some extent what the warning is about. Following this, there is usually some sort of explanation accompanying the sign. However, even knowing this, user problems can still arise. One of the most common problems is that the user will not pay attention to any kind of warning until the problem has already presented itself. The user also tends to rely on experience rather than warnings. Many times when something breaks down, a user will ask someone who owns the same product if they have experienced something similar and how they solved it before consulting a warning or a manual. Lastly, sometimes the explanation is too difficult or confusing for the reader to understand, and they simply ignore it or they move on. To combat these problems, there are several things you should avoid. One is providing an explanation that is difficult or confusing. Another is not to make the warning stand out enough. Lastly, do not place the warning after the instructions. Doing this defeats the purpose of a warning in the first place. So, when creating your own warning, you need to consider the following things. The first is to consider your audience. If this is a product for children, technical terms are not going to be helpful. Many companies actually write all of their manuals and warnings on an elementary reading level to avoid any confusion. The warnings also need to be visible, eye-catching, and placed before their respective instructions. In the explanation, it is important to explain the consequences of not heeding the warning, as well as explaining how these accidents can be prevented. Finally, if it is necessary, one can provide the reader with a warnings booklet separate from the actual manual to stress its significance. Looking at the warning sign to the right, all of these important characteristics are present. The sign is bright colored and catches one's attention. The text is clear and easy for anyone to understand. The sign also shows what will happen if the warning is ignored.